Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game B. Actually, I just forgot the intro for this. This is our roundtable where we talk about what we've been doing on our projects, how we can use some help, and how we can participate in each other's projects. And today, since we're also working on each other's projects, we might have a lot to discuss about that. So that's the general theme. Adriel, do you want to kind of say what you've been up to, and if you add anything to my intro?
Sure. Not anything to add to the intro, so I can jump right in.
Okay.
So my project is WikiLection and Conferati. They are sort of two sides of the same coin. They're both intended to fight misinformation in politics, science, and news. I've been working with Matoush on the prototype. Hopefully getting a new version at some point soon so I can start to see the sort of more interesting layer. As it is now, it's just people, organizations, and the people's positions at those organizations, so not a whole lot. But this layer is the legislation, how people voted, and then some scoring to sort of show what the legislation might mean for somebody's values, and then over time you can start to learn sort of trends and themes about how people vote. So just waiting on the new version of that, and actually sounds like the part with the figuring out the values and the voting on them, what was developed for that might end up being used for a number of projects. So that's where things are at there.
Jubilee, if you want to.
Sorry, I'm on a different computer and it just notified something. I was trying to see if I could turn on notifications. My project is solution raising, as well as this new emerging thing.
Together Tech.
And that is what no, not Together Tech. Something else. Something else.
Right.
Also Together Tech, of course, but that's not.
Is that the MLM?
Yeah, the MLM and the product. No, that is part of what it is, but it's also like the product that is emerging through that. And so this last week, I spent my time doing this 5-day course creation course and focusing on working through that. And that is what the MLM is becoming into, is this 6-week course. It's 6 different conversations, right? I mean, I'm not putting together an actual course. That's not going to work. It's about coming together and doing wish obstacle, and then coming together and doing that same thing for your health and for your relationships and for your hobbies and purpose, what you actually like, what you're doing. And so I've been working that part out. And what I could most use help with is what I've always needed most help with, which is the admin side and the executive functioning side, actually physically having help getting people to the event, doing the marketing and doing all of the admin work that is required, like email lists and that kind of stuff. And so if there's someone out there who is capable of that and willing to work on this project, it'll possibly pay something in the future.
Excellent. For my project, so I have tons and tons of projects. Before I was just doing Reason Score, which is a tool for mass agreement. And then I kind of got that to a level where I was having trouble, as usual, as all of us, getting people to participate, trying to figure out. And a lot of times we're trying to solve big problems, so they have so many uses, it's hard to find where to put your effort to get participation. I did hire a contractor. They've been delayed to do some research. I just found another group that's doing a debate on Discord. So it'll be interesting to see if I can have them at some point. If they're interested in debating, maybe at some point they'll be wanting to try out a new debating tool. But also this week, I just got off a call with Adam. I actually don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's working on the Eureka game. And we're working on designing an app for putting his processes into kind of a social media context. So it's converting the game to a more long-running process instead of a game. Although it's still gamified, so you still get points and everything. And then we're also he's going to propose a new Facebook group in GameB, I think, soon. That'll be interesting. It'll be kind of invite only, and then there'll be tiers to where the people with the highest quality content kind of gets grouped together, and then there's some other stuff in that. So, but he'll be explaining that, and we'll see whether it resonates with people. I also worked with Vincent Arena on. I'm blinking on it right now. I have so many things going on, but I had a meeting with him, and we're going to continue. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So after a long talk about reason score and debating, his main idea is what we've been talking about, the generic batching rating system. So he's been working on it for over a year. He's built 2 or 3 specifically for specific use cases using no-code tools. So he's not a developer, but he's been building them. So I invited him to join. We set up a meeting. I think I've already shared it on Facebook, and that's just for me and him, but other people are invited. And then I put out a doodle. No, actually, I don't think I've shared that one yet, but I did put out a doodle for a regular repeating weekly discussion on this thing. So if anyone, if you search for that in the GameB projects group, maybe I should share that to GameB as well. Then hopefully we can do a repeating conversation. And Adria, if that would be something, your participation would be greatly valued.
Sure.
Because you know it might be some code that you'll reuse. Yeah, so those are the main projects, and then I have a startup that I'm helping with creating a new ebook reader that gets you more extra content more easily accessed. So that's kind of a secret project that I just talked about. Yeah, so doing a lot of the things. We can continue our conversation in lots of ways. When you were sharing about yours, oh no, I guess you kind of answered my question about that. But if you like, we could talk about that a little bit, and then also Adrian and I could talk about the challenge of combining my open source project with his currently closed source project, how that would overlap and stuff, or we could save that for the other meeting. So any other topics people want to discuss?
I'm good with either of those. I would like to mention that if nothing else, we sure are multiplying projects because between even the 3 of us, we went from having 3 projects to having about a dozen. So yay us.
Well, yes, that's a bit scary.
Yes. Now we just need other people to come and help with the various projects. Although Bentley, you are helping on a bunch of people's other various projects, which is then multiplying your own as well.
Right. As long as I can. I have overextended myself, and I just bought a house, so I'm going to be moving over the next month. So I'm actually taking 2 weeks off. Like, I shut down my calendar so people couldn't book appointments. I'll still be attending a few things, but I might miss a meeting or 2. Right. Yeah.
Does anyone know what a job if I wanted like a personal assistant for a couple hours a week for the admin type stuff, and of course needed that cheaply, how would I go about finding someone to do the admin stuff?
I think it's a virtual assistant, and and I think that's the title you would actually search for on Freelancer or what's the Upwork and other sites like that. It's just virtual assistant, and they'll help you with all that. Usually you can get someone from the Philippines that you could pay very well and get the although their cost of living is going up, but yeah, there's a lot of ways where you can use the difference in currencies to get a lot of value and help someone out.
I feel like what I'm doing in the world is maybe not the greatest. Have someone from the Philippines specifically because of their fascist government that might get them into trouble, right? If they're creating something in a cooperative that is dismantling capitalism.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I'm sure there's a country that it will be more
Right.
conducive with.
Yeah, just their English is pretty
Yeah.
good, so that's why they've been a good choice for outsourcing.
Yep.
But you have a lot of South America too. There's lots of opportunities. So. Yes. So is this kind of your first iteration? Is that Wish and what was it? Blockers? Was that the
Obstacle?
Term?
Yeah.
Obstacle.
Wish and
Obstacle meetings. Yeah. And then, are you thinking that that'll be a continuous $25 a month to do that, or am I mixing up the different projects?
Well, they change weekly, so just I might mix them up. The $25 per month is always hits once we hit 10,000 people. Yes. So I'm creating a product that people can use for free to see if collective crowdsourced solutions work for them in their own life. So Wish Obstacle is a big, like 100-person meeting where people can say what their wish is and hopefully and their obstacle, and hopefully somebody has a solution for the obstacle. But especially when you're starting small, that's not going to be the case. There's going to be 5 of us, maybe even 3 of us. You give what your wish is, and it's more of a, hey, do we have a solution? If that happens to be in this room, that's amazing. Zoom room. But more likely it'll be something that is more like a Pinterest board, more like, hey, these are our wishes, these are our obstacles, and we're trying to overcome them together. We're trying to figure out how we can get closer to that, even amongst however big or small the group is. The idea is to build for that to be a one-time event that hopefully is bigger and draws more people in, and we can see more of the collective intelligence, how it shows up in the room, because that's part of what we're proving, showing, is doing a longer course like that. So showing up and saying, like a personal solution raising, right? What does your health look like? What would you love it to look like? What is stopping you from moving forward? How many people and resources do you need to do that? Maybe we can solve it, maybe we can't, right? Maybe it's something we need technology for. Maybe it's something we need 5 people for or 10,000 people for, but figuring it out in small groups so there isn't an expert, right? I'm not giving you what will help your health. You're saying what would help your health, with the help of other people who are there, and creating that into a course that people can come be part of. And then at the end of that course, they have the option of becoming part of whatever this entity is that may or may not be an MLM, may or may not have that structure as part of it to help with recruitment and help with financing all of the ideas that come out of the structure. But if we can just get to 10,000 people and people put in $25 each, maybe we don't have an MLM. I don't know.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have any topics, Adriel, that you want to discuss other than what I brought up?
No, I think just what people have talked about so far is fine. I think mine, I'm mostly just waiting. So until that happens, and even then, I think I know where I want it to go. So I'm good.
Yeah. So so what I want to do is create some generic open source code. And I've kind of said this to where you can name groups of entities, and those entities have attributes, and the participants in the system can rate those attributes, and in the future version put evidence on why they rated the attributes that way. So it could be politicians, it could be legislation, and then there's a relationship between those entities, right? And it's just a generic relationship. It can say anything, and it would have a certain association of sharing the reputation of this thing. So if a politician has a lot of legislation that's rated really low on these attributes, and then their co-legislature, they co a lot of well, I guess you get it through the legislation, but let's say they campaigned for another politician, then you would create the relationship, and you'd kind of say what's the level of influence, and all this would be crowdsourced in some way. And built that tool and outsourced it and based it as close as possible to what Martush is doing, what Reddick is doing right now. Then if you chose to use that, do you think that there's a a concern on your part that it would be too much open sourcing the unique value proposition of your system. Although even before you answer that, my challenge would be that the main thing that you're building is the brand and the community, and the tech may not be, if you're using open source tech, it may not be that important. But what are your feelings on that? Is that a concern or is it not?
It's not terribly concerning. Really, like a lot of what WikiElection and Confrati are about are where you've got like realistically 10 or 20 of these types of tools sort of all merged together with the same data set talking about the same stuff. That's really where the magic happens. So I'm really not too worried if like, there's a new control made to help figure out, the aspects and the scoring and sort of how that works. I have no issue if that has value being a standalone thing, as long as it's not, sort of taking time from the project that it spawned from and complicating that. That's my only concern, if that is sort of being done on its own and just use that as a base, and especially if it keeps being improved and WikiElection can see the benefits of that, then that's totally fine by me.
Yeah. And then so what I'd like to do is, I mean, I would love to just spend time on this, but I am quickly running out of volunteer hours, or actually ran out a long time ago. So what I was thinking is we do have a lot of people that are interested in this. So I think what I want to do is get a list of everyone that's interested and then say, hey, do we want to get a pool of money to pay, me and Radic and maybe even other developers to start putting this core piece together. And if that doesn't go, then, it'll just happen slower. But so I think that's the next step in this, is see if there's enough interest that people are willing to put some money towards it. All right. Well,
do you know how much money the fund, like what that threshold would be?
What would be needed? No, I think any amount would speed up the development, so I guess really what it is acceleration. So even if it's, well, people, if you're talking about a fully built prototype or a fully built app that Adriel could reuse for his two things, and it'd be fairly easy to reuse. I mean, I think we'd be building it. The core code would be built into, we'd be building WikiElection and Confrati with the code. And then it'd just be a matter of kind of abstracting it out if we accidentally build any direct links. So there will be value even with a little bit of money. I guess for the people that aren't involved in Confrati and stuff, I need to figure out what their value steps are. I think for a lot of them, even if we just had a just front end, not even a back end, a demo site where you could say, here's the food app, right? Or here's the company app, which is kind of what Mark was talking about doing is, and so here's some companies and here's their rating and here's how they compare and here's how you'd enter stuff. Then they can then put that out there and try and start getting interest. So I guess that's probably the first step. And then in that same way, we could show what WikiElection would look like with a couple of fake politicians like you've been wanting to do.
Right.
I am wondering, one of the things we have not done in the Game B space to see if it gets crickets or not is have a crowdfunding campaign. There's been a lot of talk about them, right? Like crowdfunding in order to pay for the wiki, in order to do things that are actually Game B specific. And I don't know if there's much interest in that because it's like, it's already happening. Why put money in when it's already happening? It's on all the podcasts. It's that creating something that is very Game B from within Game B that has Game B people on it creating a crowdfunding campaign and seeing, right? Or is it something that the people who have been talking about Game B for a long time and do have money are willing to put money towards? And is it something that the rest of us who have very little money but a lot of passion are willing to put a little bit of money towards? I know I would put a little bit of money towards it, especially if I saw that it was something that was generating. This is real, right? This is tangibly moving Game B forward, not Game B, but like actual, how do we get to an omni-win society? How do we create open source stuff that people are actually using? And it's the foundation of a lot of different ideas that come out of solution raising and such. Anyway, I think a crowdfunding campaign that is simple but explains it in various ways to the various different minds in Game B could be very successful and generate, I mean, I'm talking like $10,000, right? To pay you for full-time work for however, I don't know how long that is, but I don't know if that's enough, right? That's why I was asking for a dollar amount.
Yeah, right.
It could or it couldn't, right? That could be one person could put that towards it.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, 5 or 10,000 would get you to a pretty decent working app. May not have all the features you want, but I think it would be big enough to provide some value. So it would be something that could probably be gamed if you had some bad actors. But if you're just starting out, because that's the expensive part, is trying to get all those moderator controls. But just the general idea of being able to rate things and display that is probably pretty simple. So yeah, that would probably be a good goal. Would be 10,000 and see what happens.
Because so far there's been like Nick and people doing micro solutions, right? People who are like, right, putting a weekend in, putting time in here or there, that is fine. But to dedicate somebody towards a Game B project in a way that it's like, is this what you want? Give me money. I think that Game B might be ready for it. Might be ready to, or not. And then there's crickets, right? But if we're not putting a lot of money in.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I was thinking, I mean, I would like to do something like Patreon. So there's a recurring subscription, but outside of that, I guess GoFundMe would be the best other option. Does anyone have any opinions about platforms?
I partly because of the idea of testing a crowdfunding and also I wouldn't put in a recurring payment. I would put in a one-time payment, right? To say, okay, well, this is what, to see if we can get to the 10,000, but there's the reoccurring payments that like trickle in don't seem to me to be as powerful as the rest, but maybe, you know what I mean? If you're getting $500 a month and you're putting in however many hours per month towards it, as opposed to getting like, right now, concentrate. Now it's going to be out in 6 weeks, 2 months.
Yeah. So I think the best platform for that then would be GoFundMe. And then, yeah, put up a flat dollar amount and say, we will, and then, say, even if we don't kind of meet our goal, we'll still kind of, because I don't think there's $10,000 worth of any idea that the Game B community would support, but it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, just this like in between, not micro solutions that you can do in an afternoon, and not together tech. Let's put in a few $100,000 for the bigger vision. Something that's just that like adjacent possible. Like, hey, is there enough interest in this to be able to create it? Or maybe you find someone from putting that out there who's like, actually, I can dedicate my time to that, and willing to do the actual volunteer work, which brings up a whole other plethora of issues. But
so I guess the next step in that would be to write a pitch for that funding campaign, and then maybe post it in the Game B project space and get everyone's feedback before we actually do it, and then spread it to to the Game B main group. Does that sound like a next step?
Yeah, because that is definitely a piece of it. Is not even just the funding of Game B, but the spreading of it, right? That if there are 15 people who are willing to post it on their personal Facebook pages and we like each other's, right, then that already brings it better than most crowdfunding campaigns that are starting from nothing have.
And I guess theoretically, I could just put the pitch in the GoFundMe and start it, because I think it's relatively easy to edit the pitch on there. It would be interesting. I wonder if we have enough content from our videos to pull together a a quick video of our snippets from our other discussions. That sounds like a lot of work, but it might be interesting to show that there's lots of people already kind of resonating with this idea. Get some with Mark and
I think
and
it'll
Adrian.
be easier once we have the prototype online. We can actually start to show. We could even have like a 5-minute, hey, here's what the current version does, and go through it, and then just take that snippet out and be like, hey, here's what we're building as this thing.
So are you suggesting that we wait for, or that I spend the time building a visual prototype first? Or I think if we just write out a pitch on what we want to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, I think any writing that you wanted to do for that would still help. Like we still need it. But I think as the prototype actually comes online, that's going to make that content easier to make. Like the video, the visual content showing here's what it could look like. Because I think that's an important part to a control like that. Is it like when Matush was explaining it, it was very conceptual. It was like, hey, you've got this table, and then this, and then you can set the values. And it didn't really click for me until I saw the mock-up he had made. I'm like, oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of people describing the problem they want to solve. So in our meetings on taking some of the video clips from the meetings on food, people saying, I would like to have a system where I could know what companies don't have slavery in their process, right? And some of your stuff, Andrea, about you want to know what politicians agree with you and actually pass legislation that agrees with you and doesn't just give you lip service, which I don't know if you said it that way, but take those snippets as a way rather than just a wall of text on what we're doing. And I guess GoFundMe, I don't know if I think that there are a lot like the other funding platforms where it's good to have a video, or is it mostly text?
I think it's always good to have a video.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, you already have some prizes lined up. You can come to a Together Tech board meeting live online. You're welcome to come to the Roundtable. Oh, wait, those things are open no matter what. But if we give them away as prizes,
right,
people might show up. You're welcome to be on the board together. You got to show up for 10 weeks in a row before that, but
awesome.
That in our one-on-one time, right? You can have someone pick apart your utopian idea or next steps in their tech. Anyway, but yeah, I think that having a crowdfunding campaign will be interesting. I'm very willing to share it. I don't know. And you're willing to, what's the word? You're more than welcome to use all videos that are on the Together Tech website and mine that are on from Solution Raising. Yeah. If there is someone who can edit that video together.
Yeah.
On behalf of the project.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time, like everything, right? Yeah, I guess I've created a campaign for my brother's project.
And you'll be the go-to person for campaigns from now on. Because you didn't have enough on your plate. You'll be the tech person, the campaign person.
Well, I'll just link him to GoFundMe. Here you go. Figure it out. Good luck. So yeah, I guess that's all the topics I had.
Well, we can, I mean, if you guys are done the open source versus closed source conversation, I guess workshopping my workshop might help, especially from people who I don't think it actually would at first glance appeal to. As with all of my projects, it's like, just come experience it and then you'll see if it works for you. Something that, because I think it's actually more powerful to come together and crowdsource your solutions. There's an energy, there's a like God that's not a God, the universe that shows up in the room, where it's like, how did the right person show up and have the exact answer there? But that's a side that's kind of, that'll either be there or it won't be there. I can't make it be there. That it's actually better than having coaching. Like there's this, coaching is like $1 billion industry, but having someone say they're the expert on your health, they're the expert on finances, they're the expert on whatever they're the expert on, even though they all contradict each other, there's something very different that happens when it's peer-to-peer, because then it's like, right, you could be a financial expert, but I'm not going to take you at your word unless you like, you have to say it amongst other people that don't think you're an expert as well. And that's a different quality than having someone that you've paid give you the answers to your health, to your finances, to whatever it is. So how, I guess the question is, how would I get you guys to come try crowdsourcing your health or your relationships or your purpose, what you're doing, the hobbies, the activity, the verbs?
Well, so it's a course, so you kind of have to go through all of the sections.
So that is part of what, so the wish obstacle is the first one, that it can be anything, right? So it's not tailor-made. I could make a course on health, a course on relationships, a course on the individual pieces so that they are more tailor-made, or that life structure, right? One on like 1 week's focused on relationship, because you're just sharing what you know, a solution raising, where you are, where you'd like to be, what's stopping you, how can we help you get there, and figuring out together how to best do that.
So the only thing I think of when I hear that is that I'd feel a bit overwhelmed working on all of that stuff even within like a month or a couple months. There are some parts of my life where I have on hold, or I've done enough research that I'm not looking for additional information. So like my health, I've got some plans I'm working on, and I just need to implement. I just need to get off my butt and exercise and eat the foods that I have planned. And like relationships and stuff. So I guess I only really want to work on 1 or 2 of those things. Now, I think if I knew I had, like, if there were like 5 sessions and I knew that 3 of them I would get value out of, I'm happy to just support other people in trying to solve their problems as a part of getting the value of having them help me solve mine. But just as long as I don't have to share in all of them. So that would be my concern with doing it, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, because making that clear is very important, because that is part of it is, I'm like, right, but then you can offer something during the health week. Like the more you have your shit together, the better you can offer, and at the same time, not being the expert, right? Being someone who this has worked for. Keto has worked for me. I have that to offer someone else, right? Is very different than keto works for everybody.
Right. Although that's what I would think, but I won't say that.
But it's fine. It's somewhat fine to say that when someone's not paying you for your authority, and it's instead like, I think it works for everyone. The vegans there too, being like, actually, you know, that they'll just be the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Being able to advice like that is really helpful also when it's tailored to the person, right? Because if I'm the generic information on like how I managed and found success in my diet needs to be customized to be useful to people. So having a little bit of time to just give them some tips that apply specifically to them, I think would be more valuable than a generic article.
So the overarching theme to what I am creating is from the Barbara Cheer TED Talk, where she says, like, all of life is here to make you do what you don't want to do, like what you have to do. We're here to make you do what you want to do, right? So it's like, you already know what you're supposed to do for your health. What's the next step you could put into place, right? Like how do we, including, I don't want to share, right? That's perfectly fine. I don't want to share. This isn't the area I'm looking to get help in. I'm good, is absolutely valid, right? That's part of, an invitation to share is also an invitation that you are allowed to pass and not share. Did I answer? So do you think it's better to have one just health, just this, just that, and people? Because then I have to fill that many courses. Like that's part of the broadness is having something will speak to you, right? There's one area of that isn't working for you that you're going to want to come and be part of. And yes, then we're focusing on other people's issues during the weeks that they're having.
Let me throw an idea out that you've probably already considered, but even if it was just 6 weeks and didn't have any specific topics, and you can either like bring up the same topic saying, hey, so this is the advice I got last week, so here's the next kind of obstacle I'm hitting in this goal, and then people could focus on whatever they want and just give a number with some sort of commitment. Have you considered that, or was there a something that misses that the topics you think kind of helps with?
Part of it is the topics help you focus on it. Like it's like if I ask you what's working in your life, what does your life currently look like? What would you love it to look like? What's stopping you? That is wish obstacle, but it's too broad, and our brains are like, life's good. I don't know. The world's falling apart. There's a pandemic. Like it's too much. Whereas it's like, okay, what is your health like? And yes, you can focus on mental, you can focus on physical, you can focus on emotional or spiritual. Like, what is your version? It's already going to be that, because if you're really hurting in relationships, you're going to bring relationships into health, right? That's your obstacle. So when you work on any area, you're actually working on every area, but having one area to focus on helps your brain. Like it helps, if that makes sense.
You're right. I mean, narrowing things down works better for human brains. Mm-hmm. I wonder if maybe it was posted as a prompt. So people, and just give the rule, hey, if you want to deviate from this prompt for this meeting, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Or have some open ones mixed in with there. And I don't know. Those are some ideas. I do think you're right. You do need prompts, and having it broken down is good. I just don't know how. I'd have to look at your list to see how many of those I would have something I would want to actually share. And I'm wondering if people would still do it if they had just one looked good. Like if you did project and I had a big question about reason score. Although now that I have this time with you guys every week, I don't even have a need there. So although I could save it up and use it in a way to experiment with your idea.
And this is part of, like, we have this space for our projects. This is about our projects. And then yes, while you're going to have to do all the interpersonal work, we're unique. I don't think most people in the world have a project that is something that's like their passion and their purpose. This is a way to get them there through the back door, right? Like Omni Win works for you too. Like getting better health, we can do that more together. Getting better access to resources and relationships. How do you define that? And then how do we together get you closer? No one's handing it to you, right? No one's like, great, that's actually a wish obstacle. A little bit is someone handing you your wish over top of your obstacle, right? Helping you overcome that. But how do we crowdsource our lives together, right? So that's also the idea of it being a very broad one, is you're somewhat designing your life through it, right? What would your relationships look like? What would your health look like? What would you be doing with your time in your perfect world? Giving you a bit of a roadmap if you've never thought about those things, and seeing the power in the collective, right? That even if you didn't get your problem solved, you saw someone else get their problem solved at like the perfect time that they showed up, and someone was like, hey, it's exactly when they needed to be introduced to keto. And it worked for them over the 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, we could all use a little improvement in most of those areas. Certainly not perfect in any one.
And I feel like I also need to put in, because everything I do is very different than this. This is not recorded and made public to YouTube.
That's a good point, yeah.
This is a Zoom. Personal. You're in your tiny group of people. And that's one of the iterations I'm not 100% sure on. Whether you're meeting with the same people every time, the same 3 people, or whether it's, let's say, the same 12, 50 people, but it's mixed around every week, right? So that you have a fresh a fresh group of people. My guess is we'll try both and see what works. For some people, one will work, and for some people, the other will work.
Yeah, I think they'll be great. I think there could be some synergies in having a recurring group for a period of time, but there is also a value in fresh meat. So yeah, either like a batch, if this is an ongoing thing, which I don't think you've kind of said it is, but yeah, to have 3 weeks, or maybe just like a few people are coming in and out each time. So you'd have mixed cohorts. Anyways, I don't know. I don't need to make your system more complex right now. But
yeah, maybe you don't need help with that. I'm pretty good at making it more complex. Right. Like simplifying it down.
And you'll be able to experiment with all that. So yeah, you don't need to decide that now. And in the first batch, you're not gonna have enough people to worry about that, probably. Right.
Yeah. And it's about making something that if this wasn't enjoyable and there's something that would make it enjoyable, it's our thing to make better, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like it has to be this way.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess a question to how flexible you are in each meeting. That if I can't think of any way to phrase needing or benefiting from an improvement in that thing, because sometimes I just don't even want to think about that area of my life at the moment. Is it okay to share something else, or is it better to just be silent and try and provide value?
Yeah, and that's a good. I mean, I know in solution raising, sometimes they get completely off topic. That's exactly how they're supposed to go. Like that's part of the being in the moment and playing with it, and playing with like there's a human being in front of you that has a crisis or doesn't and just brought up a random other thing. It usually adds to it as opposed to taking it away. But it's about the other participants, right? If you show up wanting to talk about health and someone sidetracks it to relationships, does that work for more or less people?
Yeah.
And that's part of like, right, if you're someone who needs it to be structured, like, no, we're talking about health because I signed up for health. There's a slightly more rigid one for you, right? Like, it's like, right, that's where when we grow, there can be more diversity in ways that it has to be. So it works for more people. But I'm very open to it's supposed to happen as it happens within reason.
Been hogging the time. I don't know if Adriel has any thoughts or if he's busy working away at something else right now.
No, I've just been listening. I don't have anything to add.
I think that's a valuable experiment, Julie. So we look forward to participating.
I think it's something to get people into Game B that aren't Game B already. And that's actually my opposite issue is I'm like this MLM structure is about getting people in Game B retired from Game A to Game B. Like people who are already in this space, they don't necessarily even need this course, but showcasing to the like it's a bit of a strange thing because it's kind of bypassing that. It's like, oh, these people don't need that, but I want it to appeal to them so they're some of the first people in so that if anyone's getting retired, it's them. But and creating this in a way that makes sense, right? If it's my thing and then at the end of it, I'm asking you to bring your friends to the next one, right? I want to know if you got something out of it. If you didn't get something out of it, how could you get something out of it? And is it good enough to invite your friends to? Right? Is it something that you got enough benefit? It was free, right? Do you want more and more people here? That leads into something that is, right, $25 a month. So we can get all of those things, all of the things we created together in the health, in the relationships, some of them are just going to emerge naturally, right? It's going to be the right person at the right time. Other ones are going to need a bigger structure, right? If you can't afford your insulin every month, that's maybe a more systemic problem that we could deal with $10,000 people and $100,000. We can't deal with it necessarily with one person.
Yeah, and I still, there's too many things I want to accomplish, but a co-learning platform where it's not even the co-learning part, but someplace where you can go and this comes into our rating system to where you could be matched up with content in the areas that you want to grow, and then also a survey tool that lets you kind of that walks you through that decision process of what should I work on when, because if you're having mental health issues, you should probably tackle those first, before you just try and learn new skills, because you'll be so much more effective in that order. But then also, if you have nutrition and mental health issues, sometimes handling the nutrition issues will ease your mental health, depending on, of course, the source. But for some people, that does have a huge impact. So maybe you try some nutrition interventions before you really focus on the mental health. If that doesn't work, so I think there are some learnings there that could be systematized in a survey and a process, very transparent. Like, you can go in and say, why did the system suggest this to me? But I think that would be an interesting tool to a later following down your same path of value and try and solve the same problem.
I love the going down the rabbit hole to find out why does Facebook keep suggesting I need help with my mental health? This is really what?
Yeah.
What is it about me that is?
I tell you, Facebook got my number. Any keto treats I will click on. There's these cookies that are low carb cookies, and I'm like, oh. And then, low carb pizza, anything. They finally figured me out.
I have to say, this MLM rabbit hole that I fell down, and therefore I'm getting all of the entrepreneurial ads.
Oh no.
Both the bad ones, but also the good ones. All of the ones that are 5 days free course creation. I'm like, oh, I'm never signing up for the paid ones.
Right.
You guys all have a free version of the thing I need. And honestly, it's perfect. I just signed up for another one that I can't even remember what it is. It was like, how passionate? What are you going to learn from this? I'm like, whatever I'm meant to. Whatever I show up and it teaches me. Like,
right.
I'm not that excited for your free course. I don't know what to tell you. World changing! It's like, I'm going to use it to change the world. So it is, but not in the way that you seem to be selling it.
Yeah.
I'm using Game A against itself. I'll learn marketing. I'll learn just not editing. That doesn't seem to be the thing that people are offering in a 5-day course.
Yeah. Well, like video editing?
Yeah. Although honestly, it's more executive functioning. It's like picking the parts that need to get cut out, not cut out. It's more that. Like, it's more, I'm pretty sure I could sit down and learn how to physically edit a video, just not edit a video. Not make the actual decisions that can put it together. It's too much work.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I follow several YouTubers, and some of them talk about their process. But I don't know if I could find those videos again, because, like you said, they're not put together in a course, a free course. There's lots of paid courses on that. Also, do you think that that's something that your brain is made for? Or do you think you need that?
No, someone else needs to. I'm very clear. The universe has not provided me with any easy, simple, free tools to learn video editing, because a person is probably supposed to do it. Like, I've learned to create thumbnails, the little things I can do, just not the big ones.
Those are really good. You do a really good job with that. But that's. I mean,
I'm not saying I learned how to create good thumbnails. just thumbnails, just not my face caught in a frozen motion.
In a very bad.
It's my face caught in a frozen motion with stuff attached to it, because I never make a neutral face. It turns out, like, ever, that it captures.
Yeah, no, I have that same problem.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought that about you, so that's good to know.
Maybe I'm just overly self-conscious and see myself in photos. I found out today I can't smile. Like, does that look happy? Sort of. Looks kind of judgy. I think every face I have is judgy. Jack Nicholson?
I don't know. That's hilarious.
That's the thumbnail that YouTube's going to pick for this, right? Is me doing this.
That's all making.
We were out for the first time last night at a restaurant on a patio, social distancing, and so I was taking a picture, and I had to take like 3 or 4. I didn't like any of my smiles, but it's probably just not being too self-conscious.
Yeah, I saw the picture. I thought it was I wasn't like, he's looking judgy.
Did you see my weird gang sign? My hand was like this.
No.
I was like,
did
what
not.
is that? What am I doing there? And I took 3 shots, and my wife goes, well, that one I look best in, the one with the hand gang sign. So that's the one I shared. Anyways, wait, TMI, running out of
All
time.
Right. We have 10 more minutes. Let's talk about more photographic needs. I only just found out this is part of crowdfunding solutions. There's like a white powder on the zucchini leaves, and I thought it was part of the zucchini, but it's actually a fungus I was supposed to take care of when it first started. I was like, oh, it's still creating zucchini though, so I'm not quite understanding. I'm like, the zucchini is just fine. It's only the leaf. It's still photosynthesizing. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd love to have a garden, but I'd also love to have someone else take care of it.
I'd have a pre-made spot where somebody just goes there and grows food and then distributes it to us through some sort of a
call it what, a
market.
Farm?
Market of farmers, or a farmer's store, or
something like that.
I am thinking about putting an ivy wall in my new house, but that's one of those projects that I want to do, and I never actually get around to it. So we'll see.
I do like the idea of having other people's information.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah. Household emergency.
Sounds like it.
So yeah, I guess I will work on a pitch for this. And Adriel, you probably have some pitches for. Could you find me a snippet of text, like a sentence or two, on how Conferati and or Wikilections would be using that piece? Just the phrasing. It's probably just the general description of.
I can't think of anything. Did I ever cover that in my webinars?
I think you covered it every time, because the big piece is seeing, is it matching? I'm trying to think of how you. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how I would have phrased that. I mean, in general, that's something where, like, I think that part will probably happen more naturally once the prototype is out. Then we can do a quick, like, hey, here's how it works. And that 5-minute conversation will be chock full of different snippets and screenshots and things that will.
Yeah, I was just hoping to get some funding to make the prototype. So, and I think if you can't describe an idea well enough without a prototype, it may not be. Well, not everything's that way. Some things
I mean, part of it is like I would be describing one implementation of the tool. I'm less attached to the idea of it being a tool as opposed to it just being an aspect of the prototype.
And I think that's what the pitch needs to be. I think it needs to be, it can be used for this and for that. So really it's just the snippet of what Conferati is and what part of Wikilection where you get to rate or see ratings of legislation.
Right. Yeah. And you can start to see like some of the underlying where it came from. And then, okay, here's how the legislation is rated. Here's how they interacted. Here's what's happening on that person's profile because of it.
Well, yeah. Although even just the 1 or 2 sentences that says you can rate politicians and you can see their ratings, right? It's really just 1 or 2 sentences, which I could probably make up, but
I can ask Eric because my memory is not the best. He's been to the most solution raisings besides me. That when we've come up with that, like which topics we needed a rating system in, because it feels like it's definitely one of the meta ones, one of the ones that comes up quite regularly.
Yeah. If y'all think of any of the videos and can shoot that to me, then I can look and see if I want to edit any chunks out. But yeah, Adriel, if you think of anything, just shoot me a sentence or two.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been like an ever pushed deadline, but I'm hoping to have the new prototype online this weekend, and then.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what he has, because that may be the prototype. I just don't know if he had the weighting and the visualizations in there, which may or may not be important to explain, because it may just maybe we don't even want to go in that level of detail and just say we will be able to rate attributes and not even talk about rate attributes and then just say we will match you with ones that you align with and not talk about how the weighting is and you choose weights and all that stuff. Just keep it simple.
Right.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Let me know when that's out and we'll see if that is the prototype we need, because he's obviously put a lot of hard and efficient work into it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. And then, of course, the next task is to fill it up with data.
Yeah. I could probably help with some of that. Although you still want to start with fictional?
At this point for the prototype, I'm just going for data that it actually exists. So I sent him a list of like all the U.S. Congress people and senators. And then once we have that load and I've got the IDs, I'm going to go find to start with, I don't know, 4 or 5 pieces of legislation that people have voted on and that I can think of some form of okay, that's kind of either for or against environmentalism or whatever it is, at a broad level. And then it's just adding more and more legislation over time and better ways to visualize it and that whole thing.
Cool. I guess we're out of time.
Oh, yeah.
Or almost. Any closing thoughts?
Nope. We're meeting for Together Tech next week. We're on Friday, and then this on Saturday again next week, as per all weeks. So this is even more open than our Friday session, which feels weird when people just pop into that one, which make it a little more closed-ish. And then this one, you have to have, Steve being there actually made sense. He's attended a lot of them, even though he doesn't want to speak. Whatever, he can attend and type in the comments. But it has been weird having someone, because it's open. Anyway, this one is bring your project, including if your project's you and you're looking for a project, right? Come say what you've been up to. We'll help you crowdsource solutions to your project. You don't need to concentrate on your different areas of life. You can ignore them and just create game B. That's what we're all doing. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Who needs relationships and health when you've got game B? But yeah, so we have this next week, and then Friday we'll be talking about the mission more specifically than we did this last week. All right. Goodbye, YouTube and Facebook. Have a good week.